there may be spoilers ahead. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife, and today I'm going to take you through some of the characters that I would absolutely love to get an update on. I'd kind of love to get a where are they now in these characters' lives. For some of them, it's not going to be possible because the author has passed away, but if there was any way that I could find out how these characters are doing, I would absolutely love to see it. This video was inspired by the release of Again Rachel by Marian Keyes, which came out in February and gives us a 25-year fast forward to Rachel Walsh, who in Rachel's Holiday was in rehab for a drug problem. And when we see Rachel 25 years later, she has really turned her life around. And that is something that I would also love to see in Clean by Juno Dawson. I would absolutely love to catch up with Lexi. As we leave her at the end of the book, she has also just come out of rehab for a cocaine addiction, and I would love to find out how her recovery is going. Has she fallen off the wagon a little bit? Has she really stayed on the straight and narrow? Because I know that recovery from addiction is not a linear process. There are peaks and troughs, and it kind of doesn't always go according to plan. I would love to see if Lexi is concentrating on herself, if she's in a relationship, if she's got a new career, if she's moved out of London. I would absolutely love to see what part of her life she's in right now. One of my favourite characters from my teenage reading, who sadly I won't be able to get a proper canon update on, is Georgia Nicholson. I adored Louise Renaissance books when I was a teenager, and I felt like Georgia was such a chaotic little force of nature. I don't feel like Georgia is the kind of person who's going to be working in a 9 to 5 office job. She is definitely out there doing something completely unthought of. She's either a drama teacher or an actress or just dramatic. But I would absolutely love to see what Georgia is doing, where she's living. Is she in a relationship? Is she still in touch with the Ace gang? How much further on the snogging scale has she gotten to? There's so much about Georgia that I wish I could just sit down and read a catch up on her life. Another one of my favourite authors when I was a teenager was Meg Cabot, and there is a kind of an update to one of her characters, but I would still love to go into it a little bit more. In 2015, Royal Wedding came out, which was the 11th book in the Princess Diaries series, but I would still absolutely love to see what Mia's life is like now. In Royal Wedding, Mia is getting married, she has fallen pregnant, and I would love to see what life is like for Mia as the Queen of Genovia, married to Michael, mother to 2 twins. I think Mia's probably going to be overthinking all of it, but I would absolutely love to see how she is as a mother. I'd love to see what Genovia looks like under her reign. There's so much that I would love to catch up on with Mia. Another of Meg Cabot's characters that I absolutely loved was Samantha Madison from the All American Girl duology. I've recently started listening to a podcast where 2 friends read back over All American Girl, and pretty soon they're also going to start reading Ready or Not, which is the 2nd book in the duology. That book came out in 2005, and there's so much that has happened in those last 15 or so years. Not just to me, but I'm going to assume also to Samantha. I would love to know if she and David are still together. In the books, Sam was living through quite a big ska phase, and I would love to see if she's still listening to that kind of music. I would love to see if she's working as an artist or as a kind of an art collector or any kind of artistic career. I'd love to see what David is doing, if he has followed into his father's footsteps and gone into politics, or if he has done something completely different, which I always got the vibe. I didn't feel like David was into the world of politics, but I'd love to see what the 2 of them are doing. Maybe they're not even together, and there could be scope for a second chance romance here. As a child, one of my favourite book characters was Matilda Wormwood. I know that Roald Dahl has been dead for almost 30 years now, but if we could anyway bring him back, I want to ask him what Matilda is doing right now. I want to ask him how he had envisioned the adult Matilda to be. I know a couple of years ago, on the 30th anniversary of the book, there were kind of 3 potential life choices that Matilda had made. I think one of them, she was an astronaut or some kind of space person. One, she was definitely a mathematician or a biologist. But I would love to know what Matilda actually does. I do get the feeling that it's somewhat academics. I can definitely see Matilda as a PhD. I don't know what field Matilda would have gotten her PhD in, but I definitely see her working as an academic or as a researcher somewhere in the scientific line. When I was a child, I was also full on obsessed with the Babysitters Club, so I would love to see what all 7 of them are doing. I have got ideas as to where I think all 7 of the babysitters might be, and that is the potential scope for a video on where they might be now. But I would love to find out what they were actually doing these days, because the world that we're living in now is so different to the world that the babysitters grew up in. But also, given the timeline of the books, these are women who are now approaching their late 40s, early 50s, and I would absolutely love to just see where life has taken them. Are they all still living in or near Stony Brook? Do any of them go back for the holidays, for example? Do they see each other? Are they still in touch? Do any of them have children of their own? There's so much I would love to find out about the Babysitters Club. They won't enjoy me having said this, but this one is kind of a 2-for-1. I would love to see where Ruby and Garnet from Double Act by Jacqueline Wilson are these days. As we left Double Act, Ruby and Garnet are starting to make their own personalities. They're starting to strike out as their own individuals rather than as Ruby's twin sister or Garnet's twin sister. I'd love to see if they are still as close as they had been at the start of the book, if they have gone their little divergent ways as they had at the end of the book, if there's anything that they still kind of do in common together, if there's any kind of interests that they have similar, if there's any interests that they have that are completely different to the other. I remember that Garnet was quiet, she was very kind of studious, so I imagine that Garnet is still quite studious. She probably works as a teacher or a nurse or some kind of caregiving role, whereas Ruby was really boisterous, and I can definitely see her in a more public facing role, but I would love to see what they are actually doing. A YA character whose story I would love to continue and see what they're doing after the book has finished is Lara Jean Covey-Song from the To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy by Jenny Han. At the end of the trilogy, Lara Jean and Peter are in different colleges, I think even in different states in the US, but I would love to see if their relationship had actually survived that, because I know long distance doesn't always work out, especially when it's your first relationship and you're getting out there for the first time in the real world, meeting new people, exploring new things, taking in new experiences. I would love to see if Lara Jean and Peter actually made the distance, or if they got to maybe Thanksgiving break or Christmas break and one of them sat the other down and said, I don't think this is working out anymore. It's sad, but it happens. I wouldn't like to see it happen to Lara Jean, but I also think it might be the making for her if it did. This one is a little bit heavy, but I would like to see how Vanessa from My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell is doing. As we're ending up this book, she's kind of coming to terms with what had happened to her and the relationship that she was in as a teenager, and realizing that not everything was as it seemed back then. It's something that a lot of women will have experience of, it's something that a lot of women will go through, and I think with therapy, it's probably something that Vanessa is starting to come to terms with a little bit more. I would really love to see how she's doing now. She's got an absolutely adorable dog as of the end of this book, and I would love to see how life is going for her, if she's doing okay, if she's kind of coming to terms with everything all right, if it's getting a little bit too much for her. I really hope that she's doing okay, but I know that it might not be realistic to think that. It's never a video here without a mention of it, so I would absolutely love to see how Angela Clark from the iHeart series by Lindsay Kelk is doing. At the end of the 8th book, Angela and Alex have had their first child. They're getting to experience parenthood, and I kind of like to see how that's going for them. I have a feeling it will be a little bit chaotic. I don't know if it's going to go as swimmingly as it might be thinking in my head, but I would absolutely love to see how Angela is as a mother, what Alex is like as a father, how they co-parent together, if they've had any more children or if they have plans to have any others, and also I just want to know how Jenny is doing. For me, this one is a little bit of an underrated classic, and it kind of brings this video around full circle, but I'd love to see how Candy from Candy by Kevin Brooks is doing. Candy in the book is a teenage prostitute addicted to heroin and very much under the thumb of Iggy, who is her pimp. But I would love to see how her life is going after she has broken out of his clutches. At the end of the book, she is distancing herself from him quite a lot. She's kind of noticing things that aren't really what she would like them to be in her life. And I would love to see how Candy is doing right now. I would hope that her life is doing a little bit better than it was at the book. But if there was a way that we could go back and visit Candy again as she's living life at the moment, I'd absolutely love to catch up with her. Those are just some of the characters that I would love to check in on and see how they're doing these days. Are there any characters that you've always wondered how they're doing? If you've gotten to this part so far and you don't know what to say, then just leave me the heart sparkle emoji. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.